to Jake Jackets. Gear up to fire the cannon and hit the ice with your host, Jay Ashdown and Jake Gehringer.
Have you seen I Think He's Free?
No, I haven't. I don't.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to send you a couple. This one quote is one of the funniest videos I've ever seen. Like the first time I watched it, I was wheezing.
Oh my God. Hi everybody, we're back. Took us a bit.
Yeah.
It was just life.
Family.
Life finds a way.
Finds a way.
Is that not our favorite excuse?
Yeah. You know, I've only seen it once.
You've only seen Jurassic Park once.
And it was like less than a month ago.
Dude.
Yeah, no, like, I don't know.
How?
Like, I never.
Well,
like,
I know you don't see movies, you motherfucker.
I don't know. Like some movies I do see, some I don't. Like I'm very weird about movies, but it's not that I've never had any interest. I've just never sat down and watched it. But it's one of Mel's favorite movies.
So you ended up having a little date night for that?
The date afternoon, I would say.
There you go. That works. That's fine.
In the den. I liked it though.
Oh boy. We got a lot to catch up on, bro.
Yeah, we do.
Because this last week and a half for this entire fan base has been a roller coaster.
It's been nonstop chaos.
Well, it's like, okay, what is Yarmo thinking, man?
Let's get into the ad read first, and then.
I mean, I want to save the ad read for playoff Kepis.
So we're saving that for later then. Okay.
We're saving that for a little bit later. Don't worry, DraftKings. We'll take care of you fellas in a minute. God, how do I even... Do we want to go with like the good quote news and then get hotter as we go? Like,
I think we should go in chronological order.
You want to go chronological?
Yeah.
Okay. Damo, Provi, and Babs. Oh my.
Yeah.
Holy shit, bro. We're gonna start with Mike. We've talked about Mike because that's been the possibility, right? Like he came out of nowhere. We talked about how much we want more like a Patrick Waugh.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just hell, Pascal would be fine. And he had an interview with Calgary recently.
And then Calgary hired someone else to be their next head coach. So
yes.
It's interesting. So when we last talked about the head coaching search, funny enough, we kind of laughed at Mark Shake for putting Babs in like a tier 3, and we were like, I don't think he's really saying, oh, he wants Babs. He's just including him because he's been interviewed, whatnot. I got to be honest with you.
Okay.
I thought the chances that Babs would get hired were less than 4 or 5%.
Well, here's the funny thing with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are all doom and gloom, foregone conclusion guy.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people are. But
I'm human, and that's how I am. When something happens that I really don't like, I let all my frustrations out. But the beauty of it is if you give me time, and this is the good thing about us not recording for a little bit, I've had time to kind of just breathe for a damn second.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a little bit of positives in it.
Well, okay. Here's my side of it, right?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I have, because it's only June 10th when we're recording this.
Yeah.
Right? Babcock's contract with Toronto doesn't end until July 1st.
Yeah.
So for me, that gives me a little bit of patience and a little bit of pause for Yarmo to change his goddamn mind and make a better decision.
So, Ted Lasso ended. Okay.
Yes.
And I was sad about that. One of my favorite episodes is the end of the first season, and it's an
Didn't you
episode
quote
called,
them last show too?
yes, it's an episode called "The Hope That Kills You."
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that is the mode that you are in right now because you're holding on to that little bit of hope. And I promise you, it's the hope that's going to kill you here. Mike
Well,
Babcock is the next coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets.
God, I hope you're wrong. I really do hope you're wrong.
So let's get into it. Like what are the obvious negatives, and where could there potentially be some silver linings?
Okay, well, the negatives, should we just rapid fire through his last 20
Okay,
years?
let's rapid fire right now. This is a guy who has not won a playoff series in a decade. This is a guy who has not coached in the National Hockey League for 4 years.
Since before
This is
COVID.
since before COVID, yes. This is a guy who was fired from his past job. And since he got fired, we've heard nothing but horrific stories about him as a coach.
So many. Okay, so there's the most recent one was the Mitch Marner list story.
Mhm.
And that's okay, making a rookie make a list of who's the hardest working teammate to least hardest working,
One of the wildest things
it's
I've ever heard in my life.
super dumb. First of all, how is that a motivational
Yeah, like
tactic
first of all,
for
how does that
kid?
help? How does that help?
How's that a motivational tactic for the kid?
Yeah.
First of all, and granted, okay, Mitch Marner's great now. He's fantastic.
But his best years in Toronto have come since Babcock has been fired.
Well, after Babcock left.
So,
how did that help his teammates? How did that help Bozak and Kadri at the time? No. After Babs
well, it didn't help.
outed them.
Bozak left soon after, and Kadri was traded soon after. So, should be noted there. Not to say that the list is the reason why Bozak left in free agency or Kadri was traded, but
right.
It didn't help anything. You've got stories of Johan Franzen, who was an excellent hockey player, talk about how awful he was to him.
We talked about we mentioned the Franzen thing on Devil State. By the way, I was on a Devil State of Mind podcast with our buddy Neil Villapiano. You can go check that out.
I haven't had a chance to listen to it. I wanted to listen to it last night, but I had some other things I had to do. But I will probably have the chance to listen to it today. So excited.
We had fun. I tried to dial it back so I could save all of this for this show.
Here's the thing that I want to ask you. Okay,
he scratched Spezza in what could have been his first home game as a Maple Leaf.
Yeah, and it would have been against Ottawa, right?
And it would have been against Senators. Yes.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Scratched Mike Modano the last game of the regular season when he was sitting at 14.99.
14.99 is a big infamous one. Yep. There's obviously the Franzen thing is a whole unholy mess to the point where he's legitimately mentally fucked by this.
Mike Commodore
hates his guts. Hates his guts. And there's the Chelios Winter Classic thing where they dressed 7 defensemen, played Chelios for the first shift, and then benched him for basically made him a babysitter on the bench.
Yeah.
And this was at Wrigley Field in his hometown of Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay, Babcock has this he knows what he's doing to get really under the skin of these guys.
And this is where I think there's a disconnect between people who have concerns about this and some other people who compare it to the people who compared this guy to Ken Hitchcock or John Tortorella when they were hired in Columbus.
Right. And
either of those guys, those guys had baggage at the time, but they didn't have this kind of baggage. And when you look at guys who are hard coaches to play for, sure, you will get, players time and then who don't like the coach or struggle under the coach because
Patty had his issues with John, and we know, yeah.
Let's compare this to other sports real quick, okay?
Mm-hmm. Like a Bill Belichick?
Nick Saban,
yes.
I never heard anything like this about Nick Saban, and how hard he is on his guys.
Oh yeah.
There's literally like I watched the Belichick and Saban documentary where they did the connection between the two coach and following their careers and stuff like that. It's one of the funniest clips I've ever seen in my entire life. Me and my buddy Bryant laugh at this all the time. They're up 63-7.
Yeah.
New Mexico State in one of those
Oh yeah.
games that they play in November just so they can get to the Iron Bowl. You know what I mean? Because they always schedule like a couple
Whatever.
softies in the
Yeah.
season.
Give him a softie.
Nick
Just to like
Saban
whatever.
is losing his mind with about 11 seconds left in the game, up by 56, because his defense did not sub into the correct formation. And he called the timeout. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. This is how much of a perfectionist this guy is. This is
it's like Urban going night and day between college and the NFL too. Like that's a whole different beast, but still.
You don't hear these things about a Nick Saban or Bill Belichick like being this bad. And
no,
as bad as Torts could be at times, we've never heard stories like this about Torts either.
John Tortorella and Ken Hitchcock, the difference between these two guys and Babcock is these guys are hard-ass militant coaches. Sure. They have those systems that, you bust your ass, right? Babcock looks at individual players and says, how can I screw you over in order to make you a better player?
It's like how can I really get under your skin to a point where I'm always in the back of your mind?
Yeah.
And this is like the
He's
thing
a nightmare.
I find interesting because I remember in 2019, when the Blue Jackets kind of made their run.
Yeah.
It was the quietest that Torts has ever been on the bench from everything we've heard. Because when the playoffs began and they're doing their thing, Torts just kind of stepped back and let the team play their game because they knew what they were supposed to do.
They knew what they were supposed to do. Yarmo went out and made his own push, right? And it was we sacrificed so many draft picks in order to get the deepest amount of depth at the time that they had.
Yeah.
You get your third goalie, two great depth defensemen. You get, a bona fide number 2 that played number 1 minutes in Matt Duchene. And like, that's all in at the time, right? Like shit.
Went all in, but like all the core guys who had been there for a while knew what they were doing. So when you go down 3-0 against Tampa in game 1, he doesn't have to say much. They just know to stick with the game plan and they know what to do, and they come back and they win that game. They head into game 2 and they play their best game of the series and destroy them 5-1, and then they take that momentum again, win a tight game in game 3. But the one that I really liked was when they were up 3-1 against Tampa in game 4. Tampa scored 2 quick goals to tie the game. And what happens after that, Jake? The Blue Jackets score in the next shift out of Bjorkstrand. And they never once panicked throughout that entire series. They never once panicked in the Boston series, even though they lost that series.
It's like, a calm peace of mind on the bench.
Like the whole point of being a hard ass is you want to make sure that you are hard on them in training camp and at the start of the season and in the middle of the season. So the last 2-3 months of the season, you can dial it back and your players just know it's muscle memory.
It's expectation.
I don't get the sense that from what I've heard in these stories, that Babcock knows how to lay off in March and April. Now, who knows? This is a guy who has won a Stanley Cup, but
it was 2008.
It is 2008, and it should be mentioned, forget about just the talent on the team for a second. You think about the leaders that team had. I mean, you had Zetterberg and Datsuk and Nicholas Lidstrom.
You still had Lidstrom, yeah, and you had
there had already been a winning culture there.
So
Babcock didn't establish that. He came into a team that was already good and had already had championship experience and a championship attitude. And, he won a cup. I'm not taking that away from him.
Because a lot of those guys were left over from the 0-2
God, yeah,
Cup too.
a
Like,
lot of them.
dude.
So, he goes to Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
and he has success there. He gets them back to the playoffs
A lot of
after
regular season success. Yes, we
a
know
lot
the
of regular
story with the
season
Leafs.
success. And if we've been critical of the Maple Leafs, their lack of success in the postseason, I almost don't want to blame it on him because it didn't get better after he left.
No.
And a lot of the issues that the Maple Leafs have had in the playoffs are things that he constantly pointed out.
Right.
Here is
And
where I'm
that's
going
not to give him like benefit of the doubt.
no, I'm going to give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt here. And I'm going to give you a couple of reasons. These are the reasons why we could have some optimism here. Okay.
Okay.
If anybody's listening to this and wants to maybe hear some lighter things,
Dial
okay?
in right now. Here you go.
Number one, this is not a move you make without the approval of your top players. They do not
Right.
make this move without approval from Zach Werenski, from your captain Boone Jenner,
From
from
Johnny
Johnny
Gaudreau,
Gaudreau.
from
You
Patrick Laine,
absolutely
hopefully.
do not make this move without the approval of Patrick Laine.
Well,
I know a lot of
that's
people
the
have been
biggest
talking.
thing that everybody's worried about is like with the way that Patrick is,
Mhm.
right? It's like similar to Mitch Marner.
And
How do
I think
you
people look at how he did in that short stint under Torts, and they say this guy can't get coached by. Did people forget that the first 5 years of his career he was coached by Paul Maurice?
right? And look at Paul now.
We can't just like. I know Torts is like up top in that kind of category. I would not define Paul Maurice as a true players coach. You know what I mean?
Oh no.
I think he's got a little bit of a
Everybody
mix.
like everybody that's seen him in this playoff,
Yeah.
everybody that saw him leading up to this playoff, you don't
Fucking
remember
mad.
just screaming
Yeah.
at everybody on that bench?
Yeah. So it's not that he can't handle hard coaching. I'm sure they talked to him about this. Okay, so that's point number one.
Yes.
Point number two. I can't imagine that after everything that's happened, after being out of coaching for 4 years and all
NHL
the
coaching,
stories
yes.
coming up, that this guy's going to come into this job and not, for lack of a better term, be walking on eggshells.
Oh, he absolutely would.
I
And
don't. Here's the thing: like, they're not bringing this guy in and saying you can't be a hard ass at all. I think they want that, but I think for him,
well, that's
I
what
think
Jeff
there's
said. We need to swing back towards hard ass.
there is at least, in my opinion, it's going to be in the back of his mind in some circumstances. I need to be hard, but I need to constantly watch what I'm doing so I'm not crossing any lines because this is it for him, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If
this
he
would be-
fails in Columbus, he's not getting another job.
Well, okay. On that front, it's funny because like when all these stories started coming out, at that point we were like, no, why would he ever? Right? This guy, after what he pulled with Marner, with Franzen, with Chelios, why would he ever see NHL ice again?
Well, and we know the answer to this. Because he's had success.
Over 700 wins is nothing to sniff at.
So,
but it's like, I know the boys club exists and we all know that happens.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. You've got guys on your team who know what it's like to be coached by John Tortorella.
Yes.
Who I think can step up and be leaders and can almost help Babs in a way.
Johnny just had Daryl Sutter.
Okay, yeah. Johnny is a leader on this team. He had Daryl Sutter. Patrick Laine, I don't expect to do that because he's a quiet guy. Nothing wrong with that. But think about the guys who were coached by Torts. Eric Robinson was coached by Torts.
Yep.
Boone Jenner.
Didn't Sean have a year under Torts?
He did not.
No.
Let's see. Zach Wierenski.
Z, of
Elvis
course.
Merzlikins was here during the
Elvis,
Torts.
yep.
So you mentioned Daryl Sutter. Eric Goodbranson was coached by Daryl Sutter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at Sean Corelli was coached in Boston by Bruce Cassidy.
It's funny because Bruce isn't really known as a hard ass coach.
And he is.
Comparatively speaking,
because it's
to
all
these guys,
comparatively
right? Like,
speaking. So there are guys on this roster who have some experience. Okay, we'll get into Provorov in a second. Provorov,
another guy coached by Torts.
another guy who's coached by Torts, and this is a guy that Mike Babcock wanted in 2015. Funny enough, the player who's picked instead of Provorov was Mitch Marner.
Okay. I actually have some funny stuff with that. Do you want to get into Provi right now?
Yeah, so let's get into it right now.
Okay, so
I think we've said everything we need to say about Babcock. I think there's obvious concerns, but
all I'm gonna
can't
say,
sit here and pretend like there isn't potential upside either.
All I'm gonna say, because it's June 10th, let's have a little, dial it back, have a little bit of patience until an official announcement is made. Seriously, I would not trust anything until we actually hear something from a Jeff from the official team Twitter. Like,
heard from Freege. It's been confirmed by just about everybody.
Oh my God. Great, cool.
The only people who have not confirmed this are the Blue Jackets themselves.
Well, I would love to get actual team confirmation, right? Like, shit.
But I think that they can't until the contract's over.
Until the contract's up.
So we are going to hear the official announcement at noon on July 1st.
Lovely. Cool. Okay.
Is July 1st a Friday?
I don't know.
It feels like a Friday news stump, doesn't it?
Oh boy. All right. So I want to lead into the next guy with this. Out of the top 10 picks in the very awesome 2015 draft, only 4 are still with their original teams.
Okay,
now let me just rapid fire through the top 10 in 2015 for y'all.
Let me think. Let me see if I can guess these. Okay. Connor McDavid.
Yep. 2.
Obviously, Jack Eichel got traded. Then Dylan Strome got traded.
Yep.
Then
4.
Zach Wierenski is in there, obviously.
Okay, you want me to just? I'm just gonna run through this. Why not? You can.
Connor?
No, he was not top 10.
No.
So.
Or was that Ehlers who was top 10?
Not even Ehlers.
Yeah.
Let me just run through this. Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
Number 1, still in Edmonton. Jack Eichel. Number 2, drafted by Buffalo, no longer there. Dylan Strome. Number 3, drafted by Arizona, no longer there. 4, Mitch Marner, drafted by Toronto, still there.
I literally just mentioned Marner.
We just talked about Mitchie. Come on, dude. Yeah, Mitch, still there. Number
Hannafin, right?
5 was Hannafin, drafted by the Hurricanes. He's no longer there. Number 6, Pavel Zacha, drafted by the Devils, no longer there.
7 was Provorov.
7, Provorov. Now here.
We have 7 and 8 in this.
We have 7 and 8. Yes, Z is still here in Columbus. Number 9, Timo Meier.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Drafted by the Sharks, he's now a Devil and working on an extension.
Was 10 Rantanen?
10 was Mikko Rantanen. So out of only Mikko is the only one out of this top 10 with the Stanley Cup.
Well, that'll change soon, probably. I think.
Well, depending on how Jack does, right?
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny to lead off with that because, like, wow,
I love the 2014 draft because three of the top four are on the Panthers right now.
right? Like,
Aaron
it's
Ekblad, Sam Reinhart, and Sam Bennett.
Reinhardt and Bennett, right? It's like, yeah, jeez. So, Provi.
Yeah.
The deal was what? It was we get Provorov.
So we traded the 22nd pick in this draft, which is the pick we got from LA in the
or the Gavi Corpy deal, right? Yeah.
And we're trading a 2024 or 2025 second round pick. We'll make the determination on which pick it will be after the first round concludes next season.
Next summer. Yeah. It's like, geez.
Essentially, if we're picking in the lottery again, we're going to keep that pick in hopes that in 2025 we do better and that second round pick is worse.
Why are those conditions always so weird?
That is one of the weirder conditions.
Like, why is it always just like, if A, B, and C happens, then this converts to this? It's like,
so we'll just go over the deal real quick. Sean Walker and Cal Peterson were dumped by the LA Kings to the Philadelphia Flyers. They gave up a second round pick and prospect Helgi Grans, who is a former second round pick who has struggled in North America, but still only 20 years old as a defenseman. So that goes to the Philadelphia Flyers. So the Kings give up a prospect and a second round pick to get rid of these two contracts, but they are picking up 30% of Provorov's deal for the next 2 years that are remaining on his contract.
We've gotten a lot of these 3-team deals just in this last year because like Minnesota was involved in like 3 of them just over this last deadline.
We've seen it like with teams realizing, well, wait, if we can find a way to get some involvement and just retain salary here or get another team to pick up salary there, like we see a lot of these.
It makes the flat cap easier to digest, right?
100%.
My boy Shawnee Walker gets to come play in the division.
Oh yeah, he's a BG guy. Yeah,
he played. Yeah, he played in BG for a couple of years when I was there.
Nice.
I got to see him in college. He was great.
Cal Peterson gets a fresh start in Philadelphia.
He needed that like really bad.
I like this deal a lot for the Flyers because, well, A, they're getting a shitload of picks.
Yeah. And we know they're rebuilding.
B, like, you know, if you're trading away Carter Hart to get more picks and really start this rebuild.
And that's going to be in a whole separate deal. We have no idea who's going to be involved in that yet.
I think Cal Peterson is a hell of a reclamation project.
Yeah.
I could see that.
His cap hit's a little scary, but like they can work with that, right?
You know what it reminds me of is, you know, it's just like if you want to think about a full right goalie who they're acquiring with the hopes of we can fix him. They did it to Steve Mason.
Oh yeah.
So who knows? Maybe it'll work out for them. You know what? I think he's got 3 years left on his deal at $5 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Cal?
Could be worse.
Yeah, well, because Cal is like, I think one or two of those years are at 5 and the other 2 are at 6.
Yeah, but just in terms of like AAV.
Oh, yeah.
Not bad. Not bad at all. So I like that from the Flyers end. And from the Kings perspective, I like it too because
they're able to
clearing up some cap space so they can, you know, they ended up re-signing Vlad Gavrikov to a 2-year deal.
And that's the funny thing, only 2 years.
Yeah, he is waiting like for the cap to go up.
Well, yeah, and I understand that for a lot of these guys.
Which is smart because
it's extremely smart. Because when that big explosion happens, it's like, ooh.
A more physical, defensive-minded defenseman, although he does contribute offensively. I love him. His game will
miss him
age poorly, like when he hits 33, 34.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So if he can get that long-term deal when he's 29, he is set for life.
Yes, it's crazy because it's like Vladdy. I already miss Vladdy. And Provy is essentially going to be his replacement, more or less.
More or less, yeah.
Couldn't think of anybody better.
Well, so here's the funny thing. I was frustrated by this move because a report came out that they were incredibly interested in Damon Severson. And I was like, why didn't you just get him? Well, they got him.
We'll talk about
So we'll talk
Damo
about
in a
that in a second.
minute, right? Like,
But
yeah.
you needed a left-hand shot defenseman who can play on the second pair.
Yes.
How many solid second pair defensemen are out there?
And let's be real, the Flyers had a very similar season to ours where it was just like nothing went right. So that's kind of why Provorov looked like dog shit.
This is a guy whose underlying numbers have been kind of dog shit for some time here. But
this dude has only missed what, 17 games? Not even that in his entire career.
I'll tell you, like, I think that's it right there. You're looking at a guy like they want a Gavrikov replacement. So what do? They get a left-hand shot defenseman who has a little bit of offensive upside.
Pretty physical. He's about the
Very
same age, right? A
physical.
little bit younger.
Top of the league in terms of puck retrievals. Not a ton of guys are ahead of him in that category. Zach Werenski is one. So I think the Blue Jackets might be looking at that and saying, if we put this guy on the second pair,
yes,
and he's not retrieving the puck nearly as much because Zach Werenski kind of takes that bulk of that
responsibility.
Like, maybe this will help ease his game a little bit more and help him out.
Well, he was, he was tasked to be the guy in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, you're 7th overall pick. They liked Shane Gostisbehere at the time, but I think everyone knew he was never going to be a number one defenseman.
Love Ghost still. Like, gosh.
Sanheim's solid, but he's not a number one defenseman. Tony,
and they're going to be looking to lock him up long term.
Sanheim?
I think so. Yeah,
they already locked him up.
Oh, did they already do that?
Yeah,
okay.
So he got signed to an 8-year extension. So, so they're committed to him over Provorov. So
yes,
play the Provorov.
Tony D is Tony D. Like, we don't need to get into Tony D,
who is back on the trade market. LOL.
Yeah.
Okay. So look, I'm going to get into the things I like about this and the things I don't like about this.
Yes, and can we talk about the off-ice stuff?
Yes,
like at that point.
Yes, because it does factor in for some people. I like the fact that he will not be on the top pair.
Yes.
He will more than likely be on the second pair, and he's more than likely going to be paired with either an Adam Boqvist.
Yep.
Or Damon Severson.
And that's a very, very good top 4 to have.
Yeah.
And like
very
I said,
soon,
we'll talk about Damo
this season or next season
himself in a minute.
Realistically, I think it's fair to say that whether it's midway point this season or the start of next season, the top 4 is going to include Jiricek instead of Boqvist.
Yes.
Which Boqvist is going to be a hell of a third pair defenseman when that happens.
Or Bean.
And
who knows
we'll have to see where Bean's at as far as his injury is concerned, because I haven't heard any updates on him.
There's nothing on Bean yet. And then obviously we all it's so crowded in this defense core right now.
For a defense core that's not very good, it really is crowded.
It's crowded, yes.
Okay, so I look at Werenski, I look at Provorov, I look at Severson, I look at Boqvist, and you know what? I don't mind that.
And you only
it's certainly an upgrade over last year.
You only have Provy for the next 2 seasons too. So it's like he's going to be a stopgap for someone younger.
For Matechuk, more than likely.
For probably Matechuk, yeah.
So this is what I'm going to get into. I'm going to combine Provorov and Babcock for a second, okay?
As is your want, I feel like we could.
So, first of all, as you said, very expensive stopgap.
Yes.
I think I tweeted that on our account when it first happened. Like a first-round pick and a second-round pick is a lot to pay for a guy that you're more than likely only going to keep for 2 years.
And he's what? He's a $6-7 million guy
Well, he's only making 4.75 against the cap
based off
because of the
retention, yes.
retention.
But
But yeah,
the overall is like 6-7 mil.
yeah, it was 6.75, I believe, was his official cap hit before this deal. When I look at Provorov and I look at Babcock, what frustrates me about this is we talk about the baggage, okay, with Babcock
The
and
Babcock baggage, yes.
Provorov with the whole pride stuff from last year.
The pride stuff, yes. Okay, I do wonder. It's funny because Jeremy and Laura put out a statement on their Instagram, and
yeah,
we love them both.
Yeah,
you all know we love them. Like they're wonderful. They helped us get into the network. They're friends of ours. They're great. They had to take a huge break.
Yeah.
After the Provorov deal, after the Babcock stuff, and they were getting replies and messages and everything that were just way too nasty.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the internet.
Welcome to the internet. Welcome to Elon's Twitter. Welcome to whatever you want to welcome me into. It's just.
Here's what I want to say. Okay. This is what frustrates me. When you take on people with baggage in this industry.
Yes.
I want those people to have had more success than Provorov and Babcock have had in the last 4 fucking years.
In the recent history, yes.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like I do believe in second chances. I've always believed in second chances, and I will stand by that.
We talked about this with Patrick Waugh, and it's like we understand he's grown.
I believe people can grow. I do believe that Mike Babcock can grow.
Do you think he's grown?
I don't know
if the last 20 years have shown.
I don't have the answer to that because I don't know the guy. I didn't know him, what he was like in Detroit or Toronto, and I don't know.
This is a guy that chased around and punched a reporter, Jay.
So yeah, and I don't know Ivan Provorov. I've never met the guy, but what I'll say is when you're taking on people with baggage, it feels to me like they're accepting the baggage for people who they're also taking a risk on in terms of their success. You know, like you're taking a risk bringing in people you know will upset the fan base. People were upset about Babcock. There are people who are upset about Provorov. There's also a chance that they're not going to be good at their jobs here.
Yeah, there is.
Like if you're taking on, like, here's the thing, okay? And I'm not.
It's a big risk for Yarmo. Let's be frank. It's a huge risk for Yarmo. I don't want to
compare the badness of two things, okay?
No.
But if a team hires Coach Quenneville, they're doing it because they're accepting the baggage, knowing he's going to be a good coach for them.
And he's
a phenomenal coach.
Yes, and this is barring, because like Quenneville, as as not even a hypothetical, still needs approval from the league to come back.
And my guess is whenever that meeting happens, he will probably get approval.
And so does Stan Bowman, and we don't know.
Yeah, we don't have time to discuss this right now. We'll cross that bridge when we inevitably cross that bridge. But but you get what I mean, though, right? Like if you're making a move for a defenseman or a coach or both, and they have baggage, I want to at least know that they're going to work here.
Yes, and we don't know.
We don't know. Could Ivan,
especially because Babs hasn't been in this league
not
for
be very good in Columbus the way he hasn't been very good in Philadelphia last couple of years? Well, let me think about this, Jake. When you're a defenseman, especially a bigger defenseman who's relied on heavily for defense and puck retrievals
for top 4 minutes too, you're eating up a lot of time.
When these guys struggle and develop bad habits, they're hard to get rid of.
Oh yeah.
That's why,
Good breath.
Risto's cleaned up his game a little bit since going to Philadelphia. So good
Oh,
for
Tony?
him.
Yeah.
So for Risto to do that, that's big.
Oh,
But
Risto. Okay. I was
Risto,
gonna say
yeah.
I was
Tony
gonna say
sucked at all.
Tony. Wait a minute.
There's a chance that doesn't happen though. But you look at guys like Eric Branson, who's got bad habits. Did those go away when he went to Columbus? No.
But they sheltered his minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So could I see Ivan Provorov not playing well in Columbus? Yeah. Could I see Mike Babcock not being a fit here? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's concerning. If we're going to accept the baggage here, I want to at least have the comfort of this is a great hire, at least.
This is gonna work.
Hockey operations. This is a great trade, at least in terms of the hockey operations.
Yes.
I can't say that confidently about either of these moves.
No, and that's why we're such a huge advocate for like a Patrick Waugh. Or, I heard Bruce is maybe gonna get an assistant job somewhere. Like he's in the running for maybe doing that.
That'd be cool, yeah.
That'd be great.
Peter Laviolette, man.
Lavi is still one of two big options in New York right now.
Mm-hmm. With John Hines.
With John Hines.
It's so funny.
It's just like, and okay. So
should we get into the third move? That's nice.
Let's get into the elephant in the room before we move on to that.
Oh,
because with Provy's off ice baggage coming up isn't it this weekend when we're talking about it? The Columbus Pride.
Yes.
I wonder how that's going to go if we're going to hear radio silence. Like, who knows?
It's more difficult topics.
It's going to be out of date by the time this goes out.
Yeah.
But still, like, Columbus is having their Pride night, or Columbus is having their Pride weekend as a city this weekend when we're doing this. And obviously Columbus, the Blue Jackets, are going to be doing a Pride night, I would think, during the season.
Yes. Yeah.
What does that, do we see this happen again with Ivan? Like, I can understand him just not showing up to the City Pride stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if he's not even here yet.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll tell you this, man.
It's like
we've had conversations about this. It's one of the harder things to have conversations about because realistically, and I'm just going to get as real as possible here, you see kind of both ends of the spectrum of both political parties in instances like this because
with Ivan's, it's a religious thing too. So like that's a whole other thing, right?
Right. So like when Colin Kaepernick takes a knee, you see people mainly on the right who have a problem with it and keep politics out of sports, right? And when players refuse to wear pride jerseys, it shifts to the other side. And people don't know how to agree on it when the reality of the situation is, and this is the realest statement you'll ever hear on this podcast.
Yes.
The issue isn't politics in sports. The issue is when your politics are the ones that aren't in sports or when other people's politics are in sports.
You
know what I mean?
I mentioned this with Neil, right?
Yeah.
When you're a professional athlete, you don't just get paid millions of dollars to play a game.
Yeah.
You get paid millions of dollars to be an advocate for the city that you're in.
100%. And more often than not, you see players do that.
We've seen that many, many times with Johnny Z. Z's up for community awards.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
you can't I can't scroll Twitter without seeing people take pictures with Boone Jenner.
With Boone and Jack, and
Nick
Cam
Foligno
was the big. Nick Foligno and Cam Atkinson were two of the biggest names here in terms of just being around the community and welcoming everyone possible.
Yes. Yeah, like I remember. I don't know if I told this, but when I went to the United States played Canada in one of those exhibition games in 2016 before the World Cup of Hockey,
Yeah.
and one of that game was in Columbus. Uh, and so I'm walking to the arena because we
Mhm.
got this as a part of the season ticket package with the Blue Jackets, and we're excited for this. This is gonna be so cool.
It's World Cup of hockey
And
stuff. Yeah.
and that World Cup of Hockey in 2016 was fucking incredible.
Oh, it was amazing.
So
It was brilliant.
I'm walking with my parents, and I just like we're the Tim Hortons that's outside of the arena, right?
Yes, the one that's like right there.
Like right there,
Yeah.
across the street, and who's just standing on the corner, not talking to anybody. He's just standing there. It's Nick Foligno, just standing there. So I walked up to him and I was like, "Hey, Nick." And he was like, "Oh, what's up?" And we
See,
just talked for like 5 minutes.
Is that not okay? So that's
just
that's the funniest thing. It's the difference between the kind of athlete that you like, the kind of sport that you play. Too.
Yeah.
Like that's another part of it, right? Like if you're a Nick Foligno versus like I don't know, and it's market too. If you're like an Austin Matthews, maybe,
Mhm.
right? Or if you're like
Yeah.
a Joe Burrow versus, I don't know, a Tom Brady, maybe, right?
Maybe.
If
Yeah.
you're like a Mike Trout versus a Joey Votto, right?
I don't know. I feel like Mike Trout, like since he plays for the Angels, is one of those guys that like
Is a little
everybody
easier
knows
to
he's like the
approach.
best player, but like nobody would recognize him if he was just walking in a mall.
Right. It's fair. It's well, it's like, okay, the
Yeah.
approachability of guys when you're in a smaller market, or if you play in a sport like the NHL, in a league like the NHL, you're a
Yeah,
little bit easier to approach, right?
of course.
Especially if you're in a city like Columbus. Like people, Sean and Jack are just like running around because they're from here,
Yeah,
right? It's like shit, man.
yeah. I mean, like Johnny Gaudreau is over a point per game player in his career
Mm-hmm.
and had 115 points in the season not even 2 full years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody in Columbus would feel uncomfortable saying hello to that guy in public.
No, no. In public?
No.
Hell no. He is like the nicest dude. Like I would love to just meet him at like Boston's or
Yeah.
something, right? Like
So, like, yeah. So, getting back to the main point of approachability and stuff like that. Like, yeah, these guys are supposed to be ambassadors for their city and for their organization. And what I've said, and I stand by this 100%, is in the grand scheme of things, themed nights
yes.
or games
And these, by
are
the way, these Pride
entirely
nights,
meant. Yes, Friday nights is included in this, but
and they're contractually obligated too. That's
right.
like you're supposed to be a part of this.
Whether it's Pride Night or Military Night,
Indigenous
stuff like
night,
that.
if it's
Like the whole point is to make sure that everybody feels comfortable at your games and that everybody feels welcomed.
inclusion.
Inclusion, marketing too. Let's be honest. You
Well,
want to market. You want to grow your game.
yes.
Understandable. I don't think it's unfair to say that people in the LGBTQ community, indigenous people, et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
aren't as welcomed as people like you or me.
Right.
And I think anybody who disagrees with that statement isn't paying close enough attention.
Well, you look at the Dodgers and their controversy going on right now.
Which, in my opinion, they could not have handled it worse.
Oh no, especially with what's going on with Kershaw and the Christian
God.
Knight, like, and that's not to disparage. Like I've talked about this with my family before.
Mhm.
We believe in our Christian beliefs, and we're of a similar vein and whatever.
Mm.
But I still want to welcome these people into this sport.
Yeah.
Because they should feel like they belong here.
Mhm.
If you're a fan of something, be a fan of something. I don't care who you are. If you're a good person and nothing's harming anybody else around you, enjoy what you want to enjoy.
It ties into just the simple concept of just being kind.
Yes, it's kindness.
Just be kind to everybody. You don't know what someone's going through. You don't know what's going on in their life. Welcome them. Be kind, be accepting. Even if you don't understand it or even agree with it, I don't think
And nobody's
there's
saying
anything
you
wrong
have
with
to.
just, yeah, look,
Nobody's saying you
I'm not a
have
religious
to.
guy. I'm not a religious guy at all, okay?
You've said this, yes.
I'm not going to criticize people for being religious because I understand it, what goes into it. I did go to a bunch of Catholic schools growing up and a
Right.
Catholic high school and a Catholic college.
Grew up Catholic, but
I've been around religion my entire life.
Yes.
Like I get it. But like regardless of whatever your beliefs are, there's one thing I know for a fact is when you see a person, they're a person.
And when
they're going through things like you and I are, like everybody else is, and we all deserve to be loved and treated with respect. And
when they prove to you that they're a good person, all the more reason.
All the more reason. But even if they haven't proven anything, they haven't proven they're a good person. If they haven't proven they're a bad person, still treat them with respect.
Yes.
You don't know what anybody is going through at any given moment in time, and I feel like, and you see this all the time on the internet, like you remember like when you were a kid and growing up and like everyone's like, oh, I want world peace, and then you go on Twitter for 5 minutes, like that's fucking impossible.
It's like that's not happening ever.
Oh my God, we are never gonna come close to any sort of semblance of respect when it comes to real life and human interaction.
Eat the rich, right?
Regardless of your beliefs, I just feel like we all need to treat each other better.
Yes, and okay, that does give me pause and say, okay, we traded for this guy. He's on our team now, right? Let's give him his chance. Let's give Provy his chance.
I'm gonna give him a chance. And here's the thing.
He's only here for 2 years, guys. Like, it's fine.
I'm gonna give him a chance because he was the first to do it. And it's very possible he didn't realize the backlash he was gonna get.
Right.
It's very possible, that maybe he didn't think everything through enough.
Right.
He's human. I'm gonna give him a chance. I'm not just gonna jump to this conclusion that he's a piece of shit because of this. I don't like it. I don't agree with it.
It's funny because we kind of can't say the same for Mike.
What?
We kind of can't say the same for Mike, granted the different circumstances.
I'm not going to say that Mike Babcock is a terrible person. Other people have said it.
It's like, okay.
I don't know. I don't know the guy.
No, and
I don't.
He's an advocate for the mental health stuff, and he does all of this stuff. But then you look at the other side of that with what he did to his players, and
that's what I said.
Like
the tweet I had, which is, I'll take his 20 years of coaching over his 5-minute interview talking about mental health in sports. But then again, he did that after he was unemployed.
Right.
Is it possible, Jake, in the last 4 years that Mike Babcock has learned more stuff about mental health in sports and has taken a deeper look inside? Is it possible in the last several months that Ivan Provorov has taken a deep look inside and what he did and why he did it and the backlash and whatnot? Is it possible for these two to grow from it? Yes.
It is
And
possible.
that's what we have to hope for. We have to hope for two things: growth off the ice
Yes. Biggest
and
thing.
on the ice. But let's head to the most positive.
Because I will say yes. We want good players and coaches. We want people that are good at their job. But we want good. Yes, we want people that are good at their job. We want people that are good at their job, but we want people that are good people as well in this organization.
Yeah. And again, not to say they're bad, but they need to prove themselves.
Yes, prove
So I'm going to give them a chance, and I'm going to let them prove to me. Show me who you are.
Let's go, boys. We got a lot of good players on this team.
Good player.
Good. I believe in our guys.
Say what you want about Mike Babcock doing his voice and doing
his impression is the best, isn't it? It's so fun.
So the most positive of the three news.
Sevo!
I am so excited about Damon Severson.
Let's do this, man. I know. I got reached out.
Like, I'm in a group chat that's like I'm in a couple different group chats.
Well,
one
yes, you are. We know
Devils
this.
fan. Another one is just all Devils fans, and then me.
Yeah.
I'm dating a Devils fan.
Alex,
of them will tell
Neil, Mel, we love you all.
All of them will tell you I have been like one of the biggest Damon Severson truthers. Not just this past year, but in previous years too. I love his game.
I'm trying to think of where to start with Sevo, because it's like I got a text on Instagram from Neil, just last night, and he was like, "If you
was
want
it
me
him
on..."
laughing his ass off that it happened after you went on his podcast?
No, but he was like, "If you need me for an episode on Seves, let me know." I was like, "But we're recording tomorrow. It's a little short notice."
I thought that was like the first thing that popped through my mind when I saw that.
It was hilarious.
Like, oh, of course this happened right after.
Right after the show came out, because we recorded Tuesday, and it's like, come on.
So it's funny because, like I said, I've been kind of like a huge Damon Severson truther in a bunch of these group chats.
Yeah.
I was at work yesterday.
Yeah.
Because my dad actually went up to Detroit to see Taylor Swift with my sister.
Oh, lovely.
And my aunt. So while they were driving, I had to take over for him. I kid you not, through all these different group chats and individual messages, I got over 100 texts in a 9-minute span when they traded for Damon Severson and signed him to extension, because I didn't see it. I just look at my phone and I see 100. I was like, what did we do? I was like,
happened? And then you started texting
this is one
me.
of my teams, and they did something, and it's either going to really make me happy or it's really going to ruin the rest of my day.
It's going to piss me off, right?
And I look, and the first thing I see, I check Mel's first, and it's just...
Well, as you do.
They got Damon Severson.
So the move itself is funny because it's the second sign-in trade that we've seen within the last 2 years, and within the last... It's the second ever.
Look at what Brad Tree he created the first sign and trade in NHL history, and then the next year we get another one. I feel like we're probably going to see more of these, especially with these pending UFAs that you're not going to keep. If other teams want to get these guys and potentially sign them to longer term deals. I think we'll see this more and more, but I love what the Blue Jackets did. They gave up the 80th pick in the draft to get Damon Severson for 8 years, who is going to be in your top 4. He's a right-hand shot defenseman.
Yeah.
He has unbelievable underlying numbers. I will say this right off the top, though, okay, for everybody. Yes. If you're a Blue Jackets fan and you haven't watched a lot of the New Jersey Devils, understandable.
Calm down.
If you don't know a ton about Damon Severson is fantastic.
He's
an excellent puck-moving defenseman. He's one of the best defensemen in the league at the stretch pass. His passing ability is off the charts. Solid defensively. He will fuck up from time to time.
He will
and
make a
his
lot
mistakes,
of flubs, and he will
his
score on his own
mistakes are
net.
always horrific.
He will.
But
He
he
will
doesn't
score
make a
on his
lot.
own net. He will.
Yeah.
Like, we know this. I
He will
remember.
accidentally score in his own net. He will accidentally whiff on a 2-on-1 when defending.
Well, remember when
he'll have a bad turnover that leads to a goal here and there. But
remember when
we live
Steve
with
started? Dang it!
Yeah.
Remember when Steve started? Dang it! Damon Severson. Like, forget the Devils as a whole for a minute.
Mhm.
For the first 2 seasons of Dang It's,
Mhm.
Damon himself was a staple
He was.
on Steve's Dang It's. Like, seriously, this poor guy.
So this guy is 28 years old. Understand, he's going to be great.
Yes.
For every 1,000 plays he makes, he will not have a ton of fuck ups. They will be noticeable though.
They will be like,
But
he's Justin
you
Hall.
live with the noticeable mistakes for all the other great things he brings and small things he does.
He's going to
and
be our Justin Hall, but a better defenseman.
Way better. Way better.
Like, that's
Absolutely.
literally what he is.
I sent you his player card. His
You did, yes.
numbers are just ridiculous.
It's like 90% and like it's mostly between like 85 and 90 for a lot of things.
So his offense this past season was at 99%.
Right.
Projected work percentage was 94%.
Well, let's be frank. With this past year's Devils team,
Mhm.
he was playing sheltered minutes. He was playing
Yeah,
third
so-
pair ice time.
So he is, throughout the course of his career, primarily been a second pair defenseman. He did play third pair minutes because they got John Marino. It wasn't like, oh, we need to put this guy in the third pair. No, they just went out.
No, it was because they got a
got
better
his
guy.
long-term replacement
Yes.
in John Marino, and then they drafted his other long-term replacement in Simon Nemec.
Right.
So,
So he just became
but Alex
expendable.
wrote in his article, and I agreed with it. Watching the Devils last year, when Dougie Hamilton went down,
Mhm.
they put Damon Severson on the top pair along with Jonas Siegenthaler, and it was the best hockey he played in the 2021-2022 season. He's primarily been a second pair defenseman for the course of his career, and his numbers have been fantastic there.
Which is most likely what they're going to do.
Yeah, I could
Because-
see them either pairing him on the second pair with Provorov,
Yes, or with
just
Z.
putting him on the top pair and saying,
Just go ahead and put him
"Putting
with
our two
Z
best
and see how
defensemen
it.
on
Yeah,
the top pair," and that's it.
and that leaves a space for like. There's so much you can do now that you've revamped your entire second pair. You could put Damon with Z. You could put Boakfist with Provorov. You can swap those two. You could.
One thing that came out was that in terms of top 10 like trade targets for this off season, I think Freach does that. Andrew Peak
Maybe.
was added to that list, so it's very likely they're going to trade Andrew Peak this off season.
You could trade Peaker. Yeah.
But looking at Damon Severson, the last Jesus. Let me go through these years for you real quick, okay?
Yeah.
So you mentioned Ivan Provorov and how this guy never misses time, right?
Right.
Damon Severson last year, 81 games. Year before that, 80. Year before that, 56, but that was the 56
Out of 56, yes.
2019, 69 out of 69. Nice.
Nice.
2018, 82. 2017, 76. 2016, 80. 2015, 72.
You put those two together, and that's going to be the most healthy, stable pair.
That is what
that this
really
team
love about
probably
these
has
two
had in the
acquisitions.
last half decade. Like
A team that had over 500 man games lost last season said their first two moves of the offseason were getting two of the most durable defensemen in the National Hockey League.
yeah.
I can't knock that.
No, that's a
Especially when I
great.
love one of these guys.
That's actually really, like we talk about how Yarmo went out and, it was him and one of his AGMs and Rick Nash was an
Yeah.
integral part of getting Johnny last year.
Yes.
Rick was integral to getting Damon.
Really? I didn't see that part.
He was an AGM for Canada.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So Damo has this relationship with Rick, and it worked.
Rick Nash is doing wonders for this team again, eh?
Number 61 is really doing stuff for this team, and like even well after he was done playing. He continues to churn out for the Blue Jackets, doesn't he?
So I'm just throwing this out there way ahead of time. A lot of people are saying that this offseason there's going to be some eyes on Jarmo Kekalainen, and understandably so.
Oh, yeah. It's like I still feel like his seat's not really getting warm yet.
This
but
is what we said, right? His seat isn't hot, but they're looking at pressing the seat warmer button in the car.
Yeah, they're
I think I said
they're taking a look at the burner on the stove.
Yeah,
yes.
they're looking at the burner on the stove. Yeah, and
they haven't put the pot of water on there yet,
but they're at least looking at the stove.
They're taking a couple of glances and they're thinking about it.
Long term here, if things do end with Jarmo soon,
contract's up in 26, right?
Rick's the next guy, right?
I think they are kind of grooming Rick Nash to do this.
I think he's your long-term GM.
I think, yeah. Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be great?
It would be so fun for the longtime captain, the
first retired
Blue Jackets legend,
the first retired number,
number to be the GM, and we've seen. We talk about these former players and their success.
Joe Sakic,
general managers.
Dude.
I know he hasn't done this long. Danny Briere has only made one move, but it was a
a big move.
Yeah, like I'm intrigued to see.
Joe Sakic's the staple of that, bro.
100%. Steve Yzerman.
Stevie Y, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a lot of these guys go into coaching or management roles, and the management teams that are former players, some legends when they were playing, and some legends when they're in the office.
Yeah.
And I know, like, it's funny because, like, you look at a guy like Jarmo Kekalainen, he played too. He didn't play long, but he played.
Right, but there's something about like these really great players playing.
Big, great players, yes.
And being really good. Like, I know it's super early, but Chris Drury, I think, has done a pretty good job with the Rangers.
He had himself a hell of a career.
He had a really good career. So we'll see what happens in San Jose with Mike Greer, because he played for a long time. And those three guys were on the Sabres in 2006.
Yep, Briere,
one of my favorite
Drury, and Greer, yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited about the Damon Severson move, and I am cautiously optimistic.
About Ivan Provorov, right?
And Mike Babcock.
And Mike, yes. And again, Mike, it's a foregone conclusion, but it also isn't. Like, I want to have a little bit of patience with that.
Look, I get it. You want to spend the next couple of weeks with him not as the head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets in your mind, and I will respect that. It's
just because, like, you look at even Patrick Waugh had his interview out there saying he wants the job, he wants to try again. Right?
Whoever gets him is going to be a happy camper. I tell you that.
Oh yeah. Oh boy. But let's get into playoffs, man. Like, I know we spent all this time talking about our boys. Let's light the lamp and line our pockets.
Yeah, how dare
our friends
Blue Jackets on this Blue Jackets
on a Blue Jackets podcast where the Coyotes and the Canucks are the main concern. Light the lamps, line your pockets with our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers can make a $5 bet and score $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gambling helpline at Gambling helpline, ma.org. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700 on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and late specific responsible gambling resources. Excuse me. I'm sorry. We have to go through this whole thing. Bonus bets expire 7 days after entrance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/hockey terms. I know.
It's okay. I was looking for who will be my Kepi.
I mean, did you read the Slack message?
No.
Because yes, we have to read the whole thing.
Requires reading.
Playoff Kepis, dude.
Alrighty. You go first. I think I went first last time, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't remember. Because it's been a week and a half, right?
Yeah.
Boy. Blue Jackets legend Jonathan Marchessault.
Dick.
Dude's been unstoppable.
Yeah.
I love it. And he's kicking ass, taking names against his former team in Florida.
Yeah.
It's such a funny revenge story, right?
I mean, we talked about that before the series, that we could absolutely see Riley Smith or Jonathan Marchessault going off in the series, right?
All three of the Golden Misfits are going crazy, bro. All three of them. That whole original line with Wild Bill and those two, they're just phenomenal. And Marchessault has scored, obviously Vegas has the, stranglehold right now. Florida made it a series.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's still Vegas's series to lose. And Marchessault is a huge, huge part of that.
So
an honorable mention to him, turning down Anton Lundell. Short Kings, right? Did you see that?
I upset some of my college buddies with this pick.
Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
Lundell and Marshy?
Yeah.
Great.
My Kepi's going to Jack Eichel.
Nice. Good pick.
Yeah.
Great pick.
He's been unbelievable in these playoffs. 23 points in 20 games. He's just been the difference maker that the Vegas Golden Knights thought that they were trading for when they gave up a player from their original team and Alex Tuch that they loved, and Peyton Krebs, who was one of their original picks, and then they
top prospect for them.
They gave up quite a bit to take a gamble on a guy who we talked about had that injury, and he went through that surgery, and
he went through so much hassle just to get the surgery.
And we didn't know what he was going to be like when he returned. Is he going to return to form? What's this going to be like? This is such a big gamble, yada, yada, yada. They're up 2-1 in the Stanley Cup Finals, and Jack Eichel has been such an unbelievably big part of that.
Yes. And it's funny because, isn't he third most ever points in a playoff debut now?
I don't know.
Like that. He's got some huge stat going on.
I mean, it's only going to continue to get bigger. I can't imagine.
It's crazy. And they're both great picks because Jack is doing historical things in a playoff debut. And Marchessault, as an original misfit, is turning back that clock, and it's just as clutch as he's ever been for these guys.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who's kind of always had a feel for the moment. Like, I know that they lost that Game 7 against the San Jose Sharks where there was the Joe Pavelski.
The injury, yeah.
But remember, the Sharks scored 4 straight goals, but they had to win the game in overtime.
Yes.
The game went to overtime because Jonathan Marchessault tied it.
Right. And it's funny because like you look back at that, and one of the more memorable, like, come on, man, kind of quotes from that came from Marchessault.
Yeah.
When he talked about, like, you look at what happened and really you called a 5? You
Yeah.
could call a 2, but you called a 5? What is that?
Yeah.
He was the one that spoke up
instrumental
about
in 2018. He was good when they got to the conference final, but lost to the Montreal Canadiens.
He's always been a core piece for that team.
Yeah. Yeah. So he could win his first cup with them and do it against his old team.
Do it against, yep. That's really, really fun. I think that's probably, as we get into, game 4s tonight. That's probably one of the more fun storylines, and we talked about that when we previewed things, was Riley and Marshy playing against their former team.
And if the Knights win the Stanley Cup, all you're going to hear about all summer, if you're a Florida Panthers fan, is
Johnny and Marshy. Yeah.
Smith. Like, you gave us Marchessault just to take on Riley Smith.
Right. It's like, look at
good. And Marchessault to be fantastic. Like, it's rough. It's rough.
It's really rough because Riley's been extremely solid.
Yeah.
It's like this is the first time that Florida's really been halted by anything.
And like Matthew Tkachuk, he scored late in game 3 to send the game to overtime, and they ended up winning, but it was his first goal of the series, right?
Something like that.
He didn't have much of an impact in game 1 and 2. And I think the one thing I said out of the series that's kind of coming true is
they know how to shut him down.
They know how to shut him down because they've got Mark Stone. And the other thing is, like, I can't remember.
Hill.
I think it may have been Greg Wyshynski or someone. They tweeted out like the size of all the defensemen for the Vegas Golden Knights.
They're big boys.
It's not to discourage like teams from having small defensemen or to say that small defensemen can't be valuable.
Because they are.
These guys have to be able to play.
Yes.
You can't just get a bunch of big guys and expect everything. Like, if you go out and you're like, well, let's get the biggest defense possible. Let's get Eric Branson and Tyler Myers and you know, like, but these guys on Vegas can play and they're big.
They're redwoods, dude. They're like their smallest guy is 6'2", isn't he?
Yeah, and I think so. Like, you've got a team in Vegas who's already skilled as hell, but they're well coached.
Yes.
They're big and they're disciplined.
Yes.
I couldn't think of a worse combination for a team like the Florida Panthers to face.
Fast.
That's like the only team. Yes.
They're so fast. My dad and I were talking about this.
What are they? Balanced. They're balanced. It's all hell. They do everything well.
They do everything. It's funny because my dad, he's on the phone with me. He's texting me as he's watching one of these games. Pretty sure it was the 7-2 game too, the blowout.
Yeah.
My dad has never seen a team be this complete, this crisp, this fast. Panthers can't catch up with them at all. And
that's like one of the things the Panthers do well. His speed.
Is skate, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I didn't think this was a great matchup for Florida. I didn't think the matchup was going to be this
lopsided.
And look, the Panthers still have a chance to win the series. Like, they're only down 2-1, and they've got game 4 tonight.
They've only scored 2 goals in each game, though. They can't solve Aiden Hill. They can't solve the forest that's their
defense.
It's like they're literally a forested fortress because it's literally a fortress of redwoods.
Yeah, like Vegas, I think is still going to win this series. But the one thing I'll say about this that I think people need to learn in sports, whether if it's basketball or hockey or even in some cases baseball, I don't care how large the disparity between the two teams seems in a series.
Oh gosh, excuse me.
It is hard to sweep a team.
Yeah, and we saw
after
that
game
with game
2,
3.
everybody was talking like Florida was going to get swept.
Yeah, and then we saw that with game 3.
I think people underestimate just how hard it is to do that.
Yes.
So, I'm glad we have a series. I'm glad that this is going to at least go to 5 games. I hope we get a game 6 or.
I will say the schedule sucks.
Of course, it sucks. It's the National Hockey League. Did you
the schedule from here on, because we have 2 days in between games from here on out.
Oh, awesome! I love watching hockey every 3rd day.
Game 4's tonight, and then game 5 isn't until Tuesday. Game 6, if they need it, would be on a Friday, and then game 7, if we need it, would be on a Monday.
Oh, that's great. So game 5 is on Tuesday?
Yes, game 5 is on the 13th.
They're just doing that to accommodate for our podcast schedule.
Yeah.
Thanks, NHL.
Cool. Oh God!
So, do we want to get back to the Blue Jackets real quick and have a debate?
How many times have we seen that though? Like since we started this show, where it's like we want to talk about recapping games, but they're playing on nights that we're talking.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen that?
Oh, it's all the time. It's all the freaking time.
It's like that's our.
We should know better about our podcast schedule.
That's our version of like big news coming out directly after the SDP guys record.
Well, that happens to us too.
That does happen to us. Like,
just happened to me the other day.
By the way, I know we're a really tiny show, and I might clip this just so they might be able to see it. Congrats to all 3 of those guys, man.
Yeah.
Like Steve is leaving Sportsnet to, like, all 3 of them are going to be SDPN full timers now.
I think it's cool as hell.
How amazing is that?
But I am going to miss all the Dangits videos and shit.
I am going to miss Dangits and hat picks and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it's like Steve's quitting Sportsnet. Adam's already quit Virgin Radio. He's all in. Jesse had been all in on that from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's awesome because, like, you look at them, they're still, like, they have employees, sure, but they're still a really small startup.
Yeah.
What does that say for the future of people like us with THPN? Like, this is the start of something really, really neat.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yes, game 4's tonight. We got ourselves a series. Matt Tkachuk needs to find a way to get around this. Paul Maurice needs to find a way to fire his guys up again. They need more
from Sam Bennett.
They need more from Bennett and Cousins. I can't blame game 2 on Bob.
No, you lose 7-2. That's not on the goalie. That's just a bad showing from the entire team.
Yeah. Would you blame game 1 on Bob? Because that's still like 5-2 is still like
they lost steam. They were playing well. Then I think it was Cousins got absolutely robbed by Aiden Hill, and after that save, Vegas had all the momentum and they just ran with it.
And I feel like Aiden Hill. Okay, so Conn Smythe picks to this point.
They traded him. They traded a 4th round pick to get him.
They traded just a 4th rounder to get him. It's amazing. It's fuck crazy.
God damn.
Conn Smythe picks up to this point.
Vegas wins the cup. It's Eichel.
It's got to be Jack, right?
Yeah.
Because he's Greg Jennings. Terry the team on his back door.
You on my back door. Fuck it. You can't stop me. Cross the plane. Touchdown.
Fuck you, Gumby.
Like final score is like what, 49-20.
It's like, yeah, it's like
Greatest video ever.
broke my leg though.
Let's get inside of a mind of a Greg Jennings. Do this shit for Madden.
You do this shit.
All
Love
right.
it. And then for Florida, if they do end up coming back,
Shock. It's a good shock.
it's got to be Matt, right?
Yeah.
Like it's got to be.
Unless they come back in the series and Bob has like 2 shutouts, like.
Well, that's the thing is like for Florida, it's a little more of a toss up, right?
Yeah. It's more of a toss up for Florida than it is for Vegas.
I guess you could give an honorable mention to Marcia So, but like it's got to be Jack for Vegas.
You know
Maybe
who's not
Aiden.
going to get it if Florida wins, but definitely deserves some consideration for it is Brandon Montour.
Oh yeah, he just had a kid.
He really?
He just
Good for
yeah,
him.
yeah,
That's
good
pretty
for him. And then he had his best game of the series. Like he left game 2 to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Immediately after game 2, he went to the
Wow.
hospital.
A rough drive to the hospital after that game, eh?
Oh yeah, but then it's like his wife, his girlfriend has their kid, and then he goes and he plays game 3 and
Plays great. He had a goal.
had his best game of the series, and just showed up, dad strength and all.
Yeah.
But yes, consideration to Montour. But it's got to be between Bob and Matthew, right?
100%. Yeah.
Because ever since Bob took the net, well, we said this about both of them.
Yeah.
Ever since they both took
We're
the net,
rambling a bit here.
Yeah, a little bit. Let's debate some third overall considerations, shall we? Because I've
So
seen
1 and 2 are gonna be Bedard and Fantilli. Let's not kid ourselves.
I mean, let's not kid ourselves, but still, like, it's funny because like the combine is today when we're recording this, or at least the interviews for the combine.
Up in Buffalo, New York, at Harbor Center, the home of the Canisius College Golden Griffins hockey team.
Hey. I said, did you see Svo's story on Instagram with him and Dylan?
Yeah.
We need to get Dylan on the show too. Like Tyler sounds like
Dylan's cool. I like him.
Yeah, he sounds like he'd be a really fun guest. Oh shit, we missed one thing. Donor.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Shane
this.
Doan,
This will be a
legendary
fun
Coyote,
quick thing.
Austin Matthews' favorite player, is going to Toronto to be the assistant GM to essentially tell Austin Matthews over the course of the next year to not go to Arizona, the place that he played his entire career. And
Right. It's funny because like
it's a very weird story.
He's an assistant to Brad Treliving. He's essentially going to be Dwight Schrute.
Yes. Assisted to the general manager.
Yes. He's filling what Spezza did for Dubas.
Yes, that's
right.
Literally the same role.
That's literally 100%. The same role. And with Donor, it's just funny because of all the connections, right? Because you have Austin, who grew up idolizing Shane, playing in Arizona, growing up in Arizona. You get Doan. You have Matthew Nyes there too. So like you have another guy who probably grew up around watching Shane Doan play.
Hey, you've got a former Coyotes legend in Connor Timmins on the team too. So.
It's funny because like he spent all this career in Arizona and he spent all the time being an ambassador for the Coyotes. Do you think he saw the writing on the wall pretty early?
It's a good question. It really is, because it's hard to imagine someone who is such a legend for a franchise
He was
and has
even
spent
there
their entire life and career
before they
there.
went to Arizona. He was a draft pick of the Jets.
Yeah, to see him leave at this point in time
The
with
only
them
franchise he's
struggling
ever
as
known. Yeah.
much as they are in this battle, I don't want to say it's a sign that bad things are to come for the Coyotes and it's a potential move on the way, but like, I don't think it's unfair to say that it is interesting timing.
It's a red flag.
Yes,
I think it's a red flag at the very least.
yes, I agree.
But
I
Toronto,
like it for the Leafs.
I love it for the Leafs
They
because they're
don't.
getting a fantastic mind.
Yeah, they're getting a very, very smart guy. And we just talked about former players going to front offices and having success. Could Shane Doan follow in those footsteps? Absolutely. I think that it's always nice to have a former player, especially someone who relatively recently played in the league,
Yes.
to add some insight and perspective to your ideas, whether it be on a coaching staff or in the front office. So I
Whether
like.
that's a Nash, a Spezza, a Doan.
Exactly.
A lot of these guys,
Yeah.
there's so many reasons. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Eric Lindros take one of these. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would love to see Lindros. Like, I get that he's not one of the more recent examples of retired players, but like Mike Smith, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Smith as like a goalie coach
Right.
would be kind of fun.
I gotta find this story for you that I want to read to you real quick.
I
before
know this. I know this isn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
I know this 100% isn't gonna happen. But with Doan in Toronto now, they just need one more piece to complete the Arizona Star Triforce
Yeah.
in Tajer.
Yeah. I want to read a quick baseball story to you real quick, like a really quick story. But I
Go
think it's
for it.
like, because you
Do it.
mentioned Joey Votto earlier, so it got me thinking about this.
Yeah.
Years ago, Zach Greinke and
Oh, of course it
Arizona
involves
catcher
Zach Greinke.
Jeff Mathis, I love Zach Greinke. We're going through the game plan against the Cincinnati Reds lineup, but when they got to first baseman Joey Votto, Mathis could tell Greinke didn't have an answer. Votto himself, a cerebral iconoclast, possessed one of the best eyes in baseball and appreciation for Greinke. I feel like we have some similarities, Votto said. First of all,
they absolutely do.
but I remember going to All-Star games with him and just thinking, I fuck with this guy. Greinke was stumped. Then, boom, it hit him. He was going to throw Votto a hanging slider in the middle of the strike zone. I don't really know, Mathis said, but if you want to do this, I'm not going to argue. Greinke threw a slider that spun aimlessly across the top of the zone. Votto took it for a strike. He threw another cement mixer at the belt. Votto took it again. He steps out, Mathis said, and kind of does his Joey Votto look like, what the fuck was that?
What are we doing?
Had intuited was that no hitter recognized spin like Votto, that he could see slider and expect it to break out of the zone, that he could use Votto's own gift against him, that all he had to do was throw a mess slider that stayed in the strike zone and he wouldn't swing at it. I just kind of left the game shaking my head thinking, this son of a bitch.
I want to see Joey and Zach just like getting a beer together.
Yeah, those are two guys I'd love to have a beer with, man.
Because it's
I
like
love the idea of Zach Greinke being like, this guy's got one of the best eyes in baseball. I'm just gonna throw him two bad pitches and he won't swing.
Right. It's just funny because like they're some of the best personalities off the field too. And you can see that when they're on it.
Yeah.
Joey got Zach Cozart a donkey.
Yeah.
Like as a present. And then you got Greinke just like sunbathing on the mound.
Dude.
In Houston.
Greinke, did you ever hear the Chipotle guacamole story with Zach Greinke?
No.
It was a part of his contract when he signed a deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Mhm.
Part of his contract was that they were going to just get him a shitload of Chipotle guacamole.
Just the guac? Okay.
And I have to read you the quote real quick. It is that funny. It is worth it.
Ah,
So he said this after the price of guacamole shot up by 30 cents at his local Chipotle.
for 30 cents. Okay, yep.
By 30 cents. He said, I like the guacamole. Now, I don't really love the guacamole, so I get it when I feel like it. They changed their guacamole from $1.50 to $1.80. I mean, $1.50 is already pretty darn high. So they changed it to $1.80, and I'll probably never get it again.
Oh. Well, that's like when you
guys made like hundreds of millions of
dollars and he
It's
won't
like
spend 30
$1.80. What the fuck is this?
What is this? Like, no, but I get it, especially in 2023. I fucking get it, bro.
Dude, I die at the fact like this is a guy who's made like hundreds of $1,000,000, and I don't think he's gonna spend any of it. He's not gonna do anything with that money.
No. He's great. And anyway, like, biggest congrats and good luck to Donor in whatever they have him do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wonder what Spezza actually did with Kyle. Like,
Well,
what
we'll see it
his
when he gets
job.
there.
You know what? Sure. But like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to know what that job actually is like. Like, what are you doing in those meetings?
Grabbing the coffee.
Is it just like, are you just the coffee boy? Like, shit. Did you see Tree's? Did you see Tree's little thing? His joke at Gio?
No.
It's great to see Gio still playing at 75.
Oh.
It's great.
All right. Are you ready for a very quick debate on what the Blue Jackets do at number 3? I think we're both going to just agree.
Well, it's
Leo
funny. Well, yes, they better go Leo Carlson, but I've seen, because like we know Bedard, Fantilli is more than likely the lock at 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, like, you know, you interview all these kids and they're still interviewing Adam Fantilli.
Of course.
Adam Fantilli saying, you know, they've got a lot of Michigan guys on this team. I would love to play for them. They, you know, they have guys that have played with, right? Guys that I know.
Absolutely.
So, like, if he does end up, you know, not by chance getting picked at 2,
he's going number 3.
he would be going
Bedard's
number
going
3.
1.
Yes.
The way you pick at number 3 is if Fantilli's there, you pick him. If not, you're picking Leo Carlson.
But then there's the Will Smith question.
I wouldn't be pissed if they took Will Smith. I'd be a little disappointed because I do want Leo Carlson, but I don't understand why some people are acting like it is like the end of the world if they take Will Smith over Carlson. I prefer Leo Carlson, but Will
yes,
Smith
it's a preference, but like, y'all have to remember how stacked this draft class is.
It's ridiculous.
Even like, forget the top 10, the top 20.
Yeah.
Is just chock full of talent.
Like, Braden Yeager is realistically going to be picked anywhere from like 11 to like 17.
Yeah. And look at what this kid is doing.
He's going to be really good.
He's going to be fantastic.
And you might be able to grab him with like the 14th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
This draft's ridiculous.
It's
Colby Barlow is a really, really good player
who
is going to be drafted.
Do you have stats for Fantilli, Carlson, Smith? Because those are the 3 guys that we're most likely looking at, right?
I sure could look them up individually, but it would take a second.
We got time. We got a little bit of time.
Okay,
we got resources. We haven't been around in a week and a half. We can go long.
Connor Bedard in 57 games had 71 goals, 72 assists, or 143 points.
Yes, and very, you know, absolute number 1. That's Connor. That's
that's an above average season.
Yes, very above average.
Adam Fantilli.
What else is he supposed to say other than it would be an honor to play with the Blackhawks after getting that interview.
36 games for Adam Fantilli. He had 30 goals, 35 assists for 65 points at the University of Michigan.
Boom. Hobie Baker winner right there.
Leo Carlson.
And Leo played with men, right? Like
Yeah.
Leo played with grown
He
ass
played in the SHL. In 44 games, 10 goals, 15 assists for 25 points.
That's not bad. And he's a center, right? Like they're all centers.
Like pure center. This is a 6'3", 194-pound center.
Yes. What was his comparable? Didn't we compare him to Boone?
No.
Like a higher offensive Boone?
No, because he's big, like big.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to think about who his comparable would be. Let me look. Will Smith.
Will Smith, we getting jiggy with this kid. I made that joke way too many times on this show.
Loading.
You getting some trouble there?
Well, yeah, because there's like a couple different Will Smiths in baseball, so I have to.
Oh, why aren't you on what? What are you doing?
Well, I tried to look it up on Elite Prospects, but it wasn't pulling up. Like that's how I did the other three so quickly. I have him now. In 60 games, for the U.S. national under 18 team, he had 51 goals, 76 assists for 127 points.
Would you not want that?
He's going to Boston College, so yeah, well, this is a really good player.
Would you not want that?
Too. He's not big. He's only 6 feet tall, but he's a center.
But how would you not want that kind of production out of your first liner?
Right.
Like seriously, I know how would they like? I don't know how that would translate to an NHL level, but looking at that,
it translates well considering all the other players from that level. Like his production, I think, is top 3 in terms of like all time.
Mm-hmm. How would you not want that? I don't understand how portions of this fan base are so anti Will Smith.
Yeah.
That's my point, right? Is okay. If Fantilli goes to, Carlson is the guy more than likely that you would pick at number 3, right?
Right.
But why would you be so anti Will Smith after looking at that?
There's no need to be anti Will Smith.
There's no need to be so.
You're fine either pick.
There's no need to be so negative towards a kid that's that good. I don't get it. Is it just the negativity over the last couple of weeks with the Babcocks and the Provorov stories? Like, is it all of that? It's like, do we just need something to bitch about? What's going on?
Absolutely.
God. If we're going to bitch about something, can we bitch about Goody again? Like, shit. I want to find positives with this team, bro. We got 6 years of Johnny Gaudreau left. We got 3 with Patrick Laine.
So Leo Carlson, I don't think his upside, like offensively, is as high as this player, but play style, and it should be relatively close. People are saying Barkov. The top people are saying Alexander Barkov.
There you go.
Who, by the way, is playing in the Stanley Cup Final right now.
In the Stanley Cup Final, and he's doing damn well.
Yeah, and is a captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think his offensive upside is that of Alexander Barkov, but being a 6'3" center with a long reach, really good defensively. I think Leo Carlson could be an 80, 85 point guy consistently in the National Hockey League.
And that's still a very good, like,
really good.
That's
a number 1 center.
That's a number 1 center. That's a Selke kind of center.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
God, they could use a guy like that.
You want
Don't you think that Johnny Gaudreau and Patrick Laine could use a guy like that?
could use a Patrice Bergeron level kind of center.
No, let's not go that far.
Well, like that's the kind of center that we're looking at for those two guys, right?
You want a good two-way center, absolutely. And a guy with size helps out too.
Yes. Not to say that Patrick Laine doesn't have size, because he has size.
He does. He just doesn't use his frame like that.
He could.
He could, but he uses it for better things.
It's funny because like even with his talk of wanting to play center, right? Like shit, man.
It's an interesting idea because I don't think Will Smith's not going to play immediately in the National Hockey League because he's going to Boston College.
Right.
I don't think Leo Carlsson should play immediately in the NHL either. I think you need to season him the same way that you're doing that with David Jiricek.
Yeah.
So, if you take Leo Carlsson third overall, you let him cook for another year overseas, bring him over, and in the meantime, try out Patrick Laine at center because
play a year in the A.
What if, and hear me out, what if Patrick Laine actually is a good center? And oh my God, for the next several years, we can have a 1-2 punch of Laine and Carlsson at center, and your top wingers are Gaudreau and Marchenko.
Your top wingers on that first line are Gaudreau and Marchi, and then
that
you get
so
and then you can
and
put
that allows you to move
KJ with Carlsson
to the left wing, and like it gives you more flexibility. So it's a worthwhile thing to try. I think they'll try Patrick Laine at center. I'm hoping that works. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, if Fantilli's not there at 3, it's Leo Carlsson.
I wonder if Babs would be willing to try that flexibility, right?
I think he would.
If he's coach, do you think Babs would be up for that?
Yeah, I do.
We just got to wait and see. We just got to wait and see with a lot of this, right? It's a lot of waiting game. As we're into the off season, we're going to welcome Ivan Provorov. We're going to welcome Damon Severson.
Oh God, yeah, we are. But real quick, like I know Sheldon did it several times, but I'm pretty sure Babs was the first one to try out William Nylander at center.
Yes.
So, fair to say he would be comfortable with that with Laine.
Willie at center, JT on the wing, Mitch playing defense.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of wild.
It's very Adam Wild. Glad I can make you laugh with a very dumb pun. It's a good return. Good to be back.
Oh, yeah.
See y'all.
We'll be back before too long, and believe us. Hey, no. Before we go, Devil State of Mind with Neil Villapiano. Go check out my episode. It's called Fire the Cannon. It was really, really fun to be a guest.
It was fire.
It was, yes, it was. You got my initial reactions to Babcock and Provorov and that.
Oh.
It was fun being a guest for once.
Yeah.
It's like, it was really cool. Neil, always a stand-up guy.
Of course.
He's one of our favorites. And go check out the latest Devil State of Mind with your boy. And we'll see you when we see you next.
Jake Jackets, a podcast for fifth liners and all puckheads around. Follow the guys on Twitter at Snake Gehringer, GARRINGER, and at By J Ashdown. And subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen. March on.